Okay, good morning and welcome to 802 Scoop live from 185 North Main Street in Barrie. Today, I'm not used to saying good morning either. I'm always here in the afternoon, so I'm not used to saying that, and it seems strange. But another cold, brisk morning. It sounds like there's going to be a few more, but the sun is shining. So a good day to be talking with you all, Candace and Daniel, about Recovery Day, because that's what it is, right? The sun is shining.
Yes, absolutely.
Eventually,
Yes.
we get there. And we were just discussing that before we went live, that it's a good place for people that are even struggling or just new to recovery, because you're in a room with 250 plus people who are the definition of hope. They've been where you are. And so we'll kick it off to you. We'll let you introduce yourselves and tell us who you are, who you work for, and kind of what you do.
Okay. My name is Candace Gale. I am the Director of Community Relations for the Vermont Foundation of Recovery. Excuse my voice this morning. Vermont Foundation of Recovery certifies. We have 10 certified recovery residences throughout Vermont. A little bit about myself. I moved up here from DC 5 years ago, purchased my grandparents' houses here. In my 20s, I went through 3 back surgeries and had issues with opiates and medication at that time, and worked really hard to recover from that with the support of loved ones. And that really drove me to wanting to do this work. And so when I moved up to Vermont after COVID, I saw a lot of people struggling in my friends, in my family, with substance use disorder, and I really wanted to make a difference in this space. So we've been doing a lot of really great work. I've been with V4 for 2 years now, and it has been life-changing. It's just so rewarding to see all these amazing people recover after a lot of traumatizing events. So.
Now, you say recovery houses. What is a recovery house?
Yeah, sure. So a recovery house is basically a shared family home. You basically have 6 to 8 people who live together that are in active recovery. They're usually coming from, they can be coming from treatment into our homes. They can be coming from self-referrals. They can be coming from Department of Corrections. They can be coming from our homeless shelters. And they're coming into our home to really have that space and time to recover with each other. So, we have a lot of things that we do at our recovery homes. People that live there have to work, they have to go to school for 20 hours a week. And they also get a chance to do their recovery goals every single day. They have chores that they need to do at the home, but really the benefit is that they have this shared living environment with people that are going through the same things that they are. And that's really the beauty of it, because people really need that time and space to step away from their own lives sometimes and really reset and be able to, come back as better people and really work on their recovery.
Awesome. And then this gentleman right next to you.
Hi, I'm Daniel Franklin. I'm the director of the Vermont Association for Mental Health and Addiction Recovery. And we do a lot of different things. This is our 87th year in operation. We were founded in 1939. And for the last 30 plus years, we've been a key player in the advocacy and education realm. We have a couple of our parts and projects are being the certifying body for recovery-friendly workplaces. So we work with the National Institute and employers all around the state to certify them as recovery-friendly workplaces, which means building cultures and climates that are conducive to recovery and other forms of well-being within the workplace. We have the Collective Learning Institute of Vermont, which is a training organization where we provide workforce education for the peer recovery community and many other types of providers, provide CEUs for their professional certifications. And we've historically done a lot of advocacy in the State House and all the way to the White House, as we say. So we are the national affiliate for Mental Health America, and we really try to stand at the nexus of mental health and substance use because, as you likely know, mental health and substance use go hand in hand, as do many other issues.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been connected for many years as well. And then you started at Jenna's, I think. Is that when
Yeah,
I
so-
first met you? Was when you were at Jenna's?
We probably met at Jenna's Promise. Yep. I sort of my career started to really take off in 2013. I was on the board of the Turning Point Center of Chittenden County and worked in downtown Burlington for 5 years. And then in 2018, I became the director of the North Central Vermont Recovery Center, and I was there for 4.5 years. And while I was there, we started the Recovery Village model with Jenna's Promise, and eventually I became the first director of Jenna's Promise, and had an incredible run there, and still very, very involved in other parts of the recovery community, but really wanted to come to VAMHAR to be able to be a strong advocate for the entire system and continuum of care to our partners. VAMHAR doesn't exist for ourselves, but really for all of our partners to uplift the entire field and help get the resources that we need and move us forward as a field so that we can transform more lives and communities.
Now, what made you choose this path?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of my own experience and a lot in my family. I feel very fortunate, and I've always been a little bit hesitant to identify myself as a person in recovery, but I was severely hurt at the age of 15 and spent 7 years on prescription opioids. I broke my leg in a basketball game, and it began a long string of torn ACLs. I tore my shoulder out pitching in college. I eventually broke my back, and I still live with several herniated discs in my lumbar and cervical spine, which is extremely painful to live without any kind of, the most I take is Advil, and it's a struggle. But I consider myself incredibly fortunate because I can't really believe how many stories start with I took OxyContin or oxycodone or Vicodin, and I remember to this day very vividly the first time I took it, and it's a miracle that I'm here, to be honest with you. There was a couple of things that changed my trajectory. I would say I was very dependent on it for those 7 years. For me, it did not spiral into what ultimately took the life of people like Jenna Tatro and so many others that I have known. I'll also say I grew up in a blue-collar family in Windham County. My farmers and plumbers and electricians and others who, have real significant physical issues as their life goes on, and a lot of alcoholism. My life took a big turn at 14. My older brother was really battling an alcohol use disorder, which makes me probably keenly attuned to the fact that 75% of substance use disorders are alcohol related and not drug related, which isn't to say that either are more than or less than or worse than or better than. It's simply that there are many types of substance use disorders, and they're all important to address.
Right.
For me, alcoholism was rampant in my family. I drank a lot in college, and when I got done, I was done for good. Like it just never did anything for me. It evened out the sadness, but it also took every bit of happiness, too. I found kind of recovery on my own, but what really keeps me so determined and so involved in the recovery community is the people that I get to work with. I'm keenly aware of how easily any of these stories could have been me or any of my family had we not, been fortunate. And at the same time, I see how the recovery community pays it forward and lifts each other and others up, and that's something that I think should be an inspiration to everyone, and that's something I want to be a part of.
We talk a lot about recovery, and we talk a lot about the substances and, getting off of the substances. But, really we talk about addiction being the opposite of connection. And that's where like recovery residences come into play, because you need to work every day on that connection piece. You need to build that community back up. It's a daily thing that you actively make a choice to do. So once you get off of the withdrawal from whatever substances you're on, it's, working to build back up your recovery capital, building your relationships and your work stability. And all of that is so important. What you put into your body, healthy eating and activity, it's just kind of relearning all of those skills too, because when you're using substances, you're so focused on using those substances to make you happy. And when you get off of those, you need to relearn who you are as a person. And so I think that's really the beauty of recovery, is you get to relearn yourself again.
I agree. Now, before we get into Recovery Day and the nuts and bolts of what it is and what will be there, in your work, for both of you, do you feel, I know myself that we've come a long way, in Vermont especially, in services and how we approach things, but we still have a long way to go as far as recovery and services and what we have for available for people that are struggling. Some people don't believe that. They think that, the services are there, that if they want it, they'll do it, and if they don't, they won't. And that's true in some cases, but we got to have a lot more than what we have. And recovery homes, certainly, I would love to see them all over, because that's what they need. And, right now we constantly are talking about homelessness, and I always think, for me, I always think start here. Start with addiction and recovery and sobriety. And if you can start there with a recovery home, just think of how many people would be off the street and then truly on a path to a better life and being able to sustain themselves. And where do you both feel that we are at with things, and what more as a community can we do?
Yeah, sure. So I can speak to this a little bit, and then I'll let Daniel jump in. So I will tell you that the Division of Substance Use under the Department of Health has made it a goal for us to grow to 400 beds by 2030. So, and we're at about 250 right now, or no, I'm sorry, 150 right now. So we have a ways to go in the next, 4 or 5 years. So it's not lost on anybody that we are underserved in Vermont and that we need more of these type of recovery residences, and we're ready to grow that service. And then there's been a lot of expansion too on the treatment side. So, Valley Vista just opened up, several new beds for people that are getting treatment. So,
And it's long term.
yeah, and it's longer term now. So it's not, this 14 or 28 days. Like now it's 30 to 90 days that people are able to go and really stabilize. And then they can transition to a recovery residence, and that helps them stabilize more. And then at least at V4, you can stay in our recovery homes for a year, and then you can go to one of our transitional apartments for an additional year. And that's a little bit more autonomy. You have your own space, you furnish the house yourself, you start paying your own utility bills. And so really what you're building is those tools to help you be sustainable. And then you go out and you start looking for a permanent place to live. And that's the beauty of it. And we have 62% of our people that apply to V4 are coming in from unhoused situation. And so, it's really important that people have a roof over their head and their basic needs met so that they can focus on their recovery.
Yeah, I agree with Candace, and I think that it's kind of a yes and in the sense that I think that Candace and I would both be aligned to say that anytime there are people struggling and even dying of something, there aren't enough resources. And the amount of resources that we have gained and along the continuum of care and how we've connected the continuum of care has seen a monumental shift just in the last decade. I think back to when V4 was founded, this was virtually uncharted territory. And, I think even further back than that, I mean, for about 80 to 90 years, the 12-step traditions were all there were, and that was rooted here in Vermont, right?
Yeah.
But then in the late 1980s, leading up to the first recovery center in 1993, since 1993, we have built all of the recovery apparatus here in the state of Vermont. So just in a little over 30 years, which I think it's important to, it feels glacial sometimes, but it is also fast.
Yes.
And then V4, I think, is in year 13 or 14, right?
Yep.
And there was a downstreet housing study a few years ago that showed such an enormous need for recovery residences, and that kind of charted the path for V4 to become the preeminent recovery residence operator in the state and expand. We're about to make, assuming that the legislature follows the recommendations of the Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee, we will have a massive expansion of recovery residences here in Vermont, led by V4 and their other partners in that work. As Candace was saying, it's not just about adding resources, but I think also accessibility. One of the things with our partners at the Vermont Alliance for Recovery Residences that we were able to do, and Jenna's Promise and V4 were also really critical in this, is getting scholarships for people to be able to go to the recovery residences. So even if they exist, cost is a factor. There are so many fewer barriers to actually living in a recovery residence now than there used to be, and being able to cover those costs so that we can save the money and then build more of them. There's more geographic distribution, there's more gender distribution. Back at that time, 93% at the downstreet housing, 93% of the recovery residences were for men. So we created the house in Morrisville to be one of the, to add one for women back a few years ago. So personally, I feel very hopeful about not only the quantity, but how they are tethered together. And I'll just speak for myself in believing that it is important for people. It's not just about one resource. In other words, treatment alone is not enough. Coming out of incarceration is not enough. Recovery residences are often not enough. It's how does one progress from step to step? I feel like people have often passed away, and the data plays this out, that people often die because of, for example, opioid naivete, or the diminishing of their tolerance after they come out of incarceration, or after they leave a recovery residence, or after some other node of care stops.
Right.
So what to me is important is that a person has resources at all steps of their life and their recovery journey. That, to Candace's point, if they come out of incarceration, that they can go to a recovery residence, that they can, or a treatment facility, and then a recovery residence, and then a step down to transitional apartments, and then finally that they have a recovery community around them, and it's that recovery capital of rebuilding their lives. And I just want to say one really thing that I believe very strongly is that this isn't just about taking something away. This isn't just about stopping the use of substances, because all that is doing is taking away a coping mechanism. People use substances for two reasons. One is to address pain and to seek pleasure, often to deal with unmitigated trauma and adversity and poverty and all of these situations. If all you do is take away something, they have gained nothing. We have to replace it and teach people how to live a meaningful, purposeful, and rich life and fun life, how to fill that void in them and in their lives with something that makes them a part of our community, a part of our families, a part of friend networks, that they have the recovery capital, because those, in my mind, are the things that help a person. It's not when adversity comes. I'm sorry, it is not if, it is when.
when.
Yes.
It's just
Yep.
because somebody's in recovery doesn't mean they don't face adversity.
Right.
If they don't have the personal resilience, if they don't have those things to live for and to pull them back from the brink, I just feel like our results are not going to be that great. And that is the more costly but the more effective way
Yep.
to build recovery. And that, I think, is the beauty of the unity that we now have in our system of care and with one another, that we can wrap around people together.
Yes.
And we know that, you know, oftentimes, and we hear it a lot, that we should just put people in prison, and most people, some people, a lot, I would say a good majority, they have had this part of their lives, their entire lives, addiction, or, you know, in some families it runs rampant the whole way through, and it's all they know. And putting them in prison, that's okay. Maybe they need that reset. They've done something. They need to be, in prison for a little bit. But you don't come out well. You come out the same way you were before. So without these stepping stones, you're just putting them back in the same environment that they just came from. And we repeat the cycle again. So more and more and more, we need houses like these recovery homes.
And you're right. And another really strong part of our continuum of care that we haven't spoke about yet is our recovery centers. Like, we work with our recovery centers a ton, and recovery centers are really a place where people can walk in at any time of day and get resources that they need, and be part of any type of group meetings. They have art classes, they have writing classes. We work so closely with our recovery centers in every area that we're in.
Coaching and grief counseling and
yeah, and they do it in the emergency room. They come at the Department of Corrections now. They have recovery coaches, to start people on this path even when they are incarcerated. So when they get out, they have that support in their community, even when they're outside of a recovery center and our recovery residence, and when they're inside of a recovery residence. That is a lot of their support too, is that in that community building is really the recovery centers as well.
So let's talk about the 11th, February 11th,
Yes.
Recovery Day. Where is it being held this year?
Yeah, so Recovery Day, it will be at the Supreme Court Auditorium, which you enter through the pavilion, which is where the governor's office and other state leaders are. It's registration and sort of exhibits and networking will start at 8 o'clock, and the program will go from 9 to 1 p.m.
Nice. And what can people expect to see there?
We have an incredible program this year, and this is my 11th Recovery Day, and it's been going for a couple of decades. But I feel like something special is going to happen this year in particular. Just the interest and the cross section of our community that's going to be there. So first of all, I think Candace would agree with me that there is just something incredible. The energy is palpable being around. It's like a family reunion, to be honest with you. And I draw on that energy for a long time after Recovery Day. So just being around people, I think, is just so strengthening. People who have lived experience, who are, as you said, the emblem of hope, that you can overcome pretty much any adversity that a person can experience, and people are just so inspiring. We have an incredibly powerful agenda. As is tradition, the first hour will feature a lot of our state leaders, so from the lieutenant governor to the treasurer to the commissioner of the Department of Health. We have a new commissioner of the Department of Health. Mark Levine was always very involved with us, and now Dr. Hildebrand will too. The Deputy Commissioner Kelly Doherty, who oversees DSU, which is the Division of Substance Use Services at the Vermont Department of Health. They are our biggest allies and funders for the system of care, really the funnel through which federal dollars flow and state dollars, so huge partners for us. So we'll have a lot of state leaders. We will have the proclamation read by Monica Hutt, the Chief Prevention Officer. And then we're going to get into a really interesting set of different things, including readings by Writers for Recovery, which is a partnership
Always
with
amazing.
Kingdom County Productions and Bess O'Brien and Gary Miller. They'll have they'll introduce some folks to read their pieces, and I'm always just, that's one of the most memorable parts of the day, is reading people's stories and, you know, being what they can write in 7 minutes, and just the inspiration. We'll have some music. We're going to have awards, and I'm really excited about the awardees this year. We have 2 pioneering doctors, one from the north and one from the south, who have really championed harm reduction and a lot of other resources. We have just some really incredibly influential radio personalities and musicians and people who have built up recovery in Vermont in some different ways. You know, it just feels like we're going to be celebrating how far our system has come. We're going to have the story of Kimber King, who I won't reveal too much, but she was on This American Life on NPR. Incredibly powerful story that I think a lot of people are going to really resonate with, honestly, of like going from that worst moment in a person's life, and her current boss at SafeSpot, which is a hotline to not use alone when using substances. Her boss is a really inspirational person, and so he recommended her to us, and he was the EMT who actually helped save her life.
Wow.
And so it's this arc of recovery that really went through a lot of the entire continuum of care. We have a couple of other really beautiful features. Lund is going to be there. We're going to show Recovering Loudly, which is a powerful example of how stories of lived experience can, you know, how that it builds up it builds up our message, and it reduces stigma and shows that recovery is possible and what people can build through discovering a life of recovery. So Lund is going to show Recovering Loudly, and we're going to have some of the subjects of the film there to talk about their experiences. So in some ways, almost not by accident, but in a beautiful way, the stories of moms in recovery is going to be very much in the spotlight this year. And there's going to be some really beautiful personal connections with some of our recovery community that were involved in the film. So it's just going to be a tremendous day.
And that's a good thing for people to know, is that it is a place, if you are somebody that's struggling or you want information, you want to know more, they're all there. All of the community partners are there. Turning Point, Jenna's Journey for Recovery, all of the different, which is Ben's Place now, and different places like that. You have the opportunity to actually meet people and know a little bit more about all of the different programs and services that are available to you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have almost 100 organizations represented at this point. I mean, that's
Wow.
it's incredible, the cross section. And if you can't make it in person, the program is in person, but we will be live streaming it via Orca Media. And if you register on our website, which is vamhar.org, lowercase rd 2026 is the link, but you can find it on the vamhar.org website or any of our social media pages. You can register, and we'll send you a live stream link to Orca Media. So it'll be live streamed. It'll be available on YouTube afterwards. So even if you can't experience it live in person, you can experience it afterwards as well.
which is awesome.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of viewing parties. I know our recovery residents will be doing viewing parties, and we'll have them at the local turning points too as well. So yeah, it's going to be a great day, and it's really a day to celebrate, recovery and how far it's come and all these amazing people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Can you think of anything else that you would like everybody to know about? It starts and ends when? On the 11th?
So networking and looking at the exhibit tables and taking photos in front of our I Love Recovery banner and some other fun activities, interactive activities are going to be happening between 8 and 9. The actual program will start at 9 sharp and go till 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, we will proceed on, anyone who wishes to, will proceed on to the State House. There's going to be testimony there all day, which I'll let Candace speak to. We will be all around the State House, and then when the House convenes, they will recognize us on the floor of the House in a tripartisan resolution recognizing Recovery Day. So the governor will issue a proclamation that will be read at Recovery Day in person, and then we will actually have a resolution on the House floor by 3 legislators from across the political spectrum. So, I would just say this is an issue that affects everyone. Yes. This is an issue that is important to everyone.
Yes.
This is an issue that has no politics. It doesn't matter whether you're rural or urban or rich or poor
yes.
or anything.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether you're from a good family or not,
Yes.
This is for everyone, and everyone is welcome. There is zero cost whatsoever. We will have food and beverages. We're trying to make it also accessible. Everything will be interpreted by ASL interpreters. So this is a day for everyone, and we just really want to hit that home. Allies, parents, there's going to be a bunch of resources for parents. We also will have, there's an art exhibit that we're getting ready to do at the Brattleboro Museum of Art called Into the Light. It's the stories and the pictures of those we've lost to substance use disorders. So later this fall, I believe, in National Recovery Month, we'll have a show for Into the Light. So there's just so many features that are going to be
really robust. Yeah. Absolutely. And while Daniel's doing that, I'll actually be in the State House helping with testimonies. We have a bunch of testimonies lined up for recovery residences and recovery centers, people with lived experience that'll be testifying in both the Senate and the House. So that will be all morning as well, and then we'll kind of join forces in the afternoon, as Daniel said, and really it's going to be such a robust day, so we're very excited.
One quick thing, I just want to address a comment that had come in earlier, and I'll address it in my way, and then I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But one of the comments that came in earlier on the post was that there was some recent articles out that said that opioid death or the death rate is way down, and how far we've come and how well we're doing. That's great. We absolutely have to be proud of that, right? That we're saving lives and that people aren't dying of overdose. But we all know that that's because of the distribution of Narcan. And you can save a life, but what are we going to do with that life after? And that's where all of you come in, is so that that's not a repetitive situation where we continue to save that same life and hope that it always works. Narcan is a beautiful thing, but we need you. That you are the other piece of the puzzle, and it's, the stigma is still there very much. We start talking about recovery homes and putting them in communities, and some people don't want them in their communities. But do you want the recovery in the community, or the problem in the community, which is the crime and all of the things that come along with addiction, or the majority of the time. So how do you want to see it in your community? And working with all of you seems like a much better idea than what we're doing right now. And so, keep the distribution up, yes, but we need to find the rest of the playing field here, and we need to really embrace that and keep it going.
Yeah, and I will say that there has been, you're right, stigma absolutely does exist, but there has been like an outcry for more recovery residences in spaces. Like we are currently actively looking at expanding in Middlebury, which has been a need for a long time, and Brattleboro. And like, you know, we're getting to the point, it's like we can't, it's like keeping up with, you know, the demand of what we need out there. So I do feel like the communities are finally seeing and hearing that recovery, you know, is possible, and that, you know, it is an issue in Vermont and that needs to be addressed. And so that change of narrative has really been so helpful for people actually going out and making that step to get help, because that's the biggest part. Once you decide to get help, we are here surrounding you. Like, we're here with the resources as soon as you make that decision, and we're as accessible as we can be so that we can help people. And the beauty of the recovery network in Vermont is that we are so close. Like we all of our organizations talk to each other all the time. You know, I got a call from Kevin Hamill over at Valley Vista about someone that needed a recovery residence the other day, and we were able to get that person in same day. So, you know, those types of things like are happening across the state, which is really exciting.
I just don't want people to think we can let our guard down. Because
Right.
that's great
No,
news.
no,
That's
we
great
cannot.
news.
Yes,
that
yes, we
that the
cannot.
death toll is
Yeah.
down, and that Narcan has been able to save people. That's great news, but we can't let our guard down. There's still so much further to go.
Yes.
And so many other pieces to the puzzle, not just saving the life. We literally have to now carry that life a little ways
Yeah.
to get them on the right track.
Right?
Yeah.
And they say it takes up to 5 years to fully recover, right? So you need that time and space.
Yeah, I agree. You know, that's sort of how we differentiate, you know, long-term recovery is the point at which your body and your mind rebound enough, you know, neurobiologically in order that your chances of living a life in recovery dramatically increase. And even if you do have a recurrence or a relapse, as it's sometimes known, that your chances of getting back into recovery are much higher. You said you know, about you know, opioid overdoses going down, and that is true, that nationally between 20 and 25% overdoses. I think Vermont has done an extraordinary job with the distribution of Narcan, using the tobacco settlements and other things, which actually paid for some of that. And we're, I think, by and large, you know, using the opioid settlement dollars fairly well. And there's other reasons that I think that has happened. To your point, and I also think that the proliferation and the connection between our resources has also driven down that number. But to your point, there was, let's take for example, in the first period before and leading into COVID, there was a 50% reduction in Burlington of opioid overdoses, which of course Chittenden County has 30% of Vermont's population. It was a very big milestone to drop overdoses by 50%. Certainly COVID played a role in the rebound, but so too did the changing drug market. And I want to reiterate, and that one, alcohol is still a huge problem. And in Vermont, like, nothing against Vermont's, you know, breweries and all of that, but like during COVID, they legalized basically road beers or road cocktails, you know,
Right.
like it's as much a part of our culture as maple syrup
Yes,
and
yes.
flannel, you know, like alcohol is a part of our lives. It's all around us. It's widely accepted. So there's that. Also, xylazine is here. We don't have anything to counteract that.
No.
And so are methamphetamine and crack cocaine. And in rural Vermont, we are seeing what has happened. You know, we were lucky. We were lucky in Vermont and in the Northeast in general. For a very long time, west of the Mississippi, stimulants and stimulant use disorders, which is to say meth and crack cocaine and black tar heroin and stuff like that, were rampant, whereas we were more into powder cocaine and alcohol and things of that nature and pills. At this point, it's crisscrossed the Mississippi, and we are getting hit hard, you know, in the way that the I-15 corridor from Pocatello, Idaho to Los Angeles used to. And so Vermont is uniquely situated at the cross-section and the crosshairs of the distribution networks from Massachusetts, New York City, Hartford, Connecticut, Lawrence, Mass, other places. So we get all of it. And places like Brattleboro are right at the nexus of all of those state distribution networks. So there's a lot of factors that not only and enforcement in China to reduce the fentanyl that goes from China to Mexico and then here into the United States. There was also crackdowns on that helped to reduce that. So I think it's both on the supply side and on the user side. America uses 90% of all of the world's opioids. 90% of all of the world's opioids.
Yeah.
That is
Insane.
telling me that there is something culturally about us, and I think a lot of it has to do, if I may be so bold, in American individualism. And that, I think, is what we have found in the recovery community, is that community and connection is everything. How we relate to one another, having purpose and meaning in one another and through one another is everything. And I believe that the communities hit the hardest are the ones that the fabric of the community is frayed, if not fractured. Communities like Springfield, like Brattleboro, like Barrie for a time, like St. Albans for a time, like Burlington, where the lifeblood of the community, the jobs, the opportunities, they are struggling, and it paves the way for these drug dealers to come in and prey on people. And overwhelmingly, you know, we're not talking about cartels anymore. Yes, they're involved, but what they do is they recruit locals to do their bidding for them, and it's Vermonters who are getting caught up in the dragnets of law enforcement and so forth, not by and large the major drug dealers. So the only way, in my view, maybe this is reductive, but the way that we are going to counteract this is with the kind of intentional community building that is happening right now with these partnerships, as Candace was indicating, you know, David Regal and Andrew Gagne, who created V4, they always used to say, we want to put the recovery residences in a place with a recovery center and with other recovery capital, because that ties the community together. It is a bulwark. It is an inoculation for the community against these types of, trends, that people have multiple nodes to connect to, that they have a community around them. And, you know, we're constantly, as providers on the ground, battling the next big thing. Xylazine has been a game changer. There are other things that are coming in. But the one constant is that these resources, if they're done well, if they're well resourced, if we do it together, they will be able to last through all of these different trends and through community decline and sort of
And we'll save more
mitigate
people.
this. Save more
Yeah,
people,
save more
absolutely.
people.
And I think we, you know, just to conclude on this note, I think we, some other things that Vermont has done extraordinarily well, or is doing better now, is reaching people where they're at. One of the things, for example, the recovery community is now going into schools. They're going into prisons. They're embedded with law enforcement. They're embedded, you know, working with EMTs. So now we're improving the methodology for, these what are called frequent flyers, who, are having a reversed overdose by an EMT or a medical professional, and then they refuse medical treatment and go back out. Now there are ways to basically get a person on life-saving medication right there at the ambulance and get them connected to some medical resources to, in some way, start their recovery and give them time to get connected to their recovery community. So I feel like Vermont's recovery community, using recovery broadly, is getting deeper and deeper, and that we're going into more places. We're doing more prevention work and trying to reach people where they are, and where this journey of trauma and coping begins. So I think we're headed in the right direction. We have to
Still a lot to
stay.
do.
Still a lot to do. Every life is too many, and so we just keep going.
Yes.
I thank you both very much for all that you do, for sure. Thank you for coming in and talking to everybody. I could talk to you guys for hours, and I'm sure that we could do this over and over again and never talk about the same thing twice,
Right.
because there is that much out there. But thank you both for joining me. Thank you for doing all the work for Recovery Day. And let's tell everybody one more time where it is, when it is, what time, and then parking.
Yes.
Everybody wants to know about parking.
Oh yeah, I want to know about parking. You
Yes.
tell me, Daniel.
So yes, Recovery Day. The theme is centering people, connecting systems. We are. It's going to be from 8 to 1 o'clock on Wednesday, February 11th, at the Supreme Court Auditorium in Montpelier. Parking. I wish I had a solution. Honestly, I should just be buying land that could create into parking spots. There, we are going to, for all registrants, we're going to be sending an email any moment now, any day now, with some parking resources. There's parking, of course, along Main Street and State Street. There is also parking behind the Capitol Plaza Hotel, which is fairly plentiful, and then some of the side streets. There is an app called Park Mobile that you can use to pay for your parking. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't have any methodologies to cover parking. Something to work on for the future. But there's also behind some of the state buildings across the street, there are some other parking spots. So, it is a day when the legislature is open. So get there early, join us at 8 o'clock,
Carpool.
network with us.
Yes.
Carpool if you can, absolutely.
Yep.
And again, 8 to 1, the program will start at 9 o'clock, Supreme Court Auditorium. It's called Room 110. Enter through the pavilion.
Yeah, you'll see all the people. You won't be able to miss it.
We'll
once
have
you're
some
in there.
signage.
Yeah.
Right, you'll have some
Yep.
signage and
Yep.
stuff. That's great. That's great. Well, thank you very much, and hopefully we can get together again soon and talk some more. And because there's much to discuss here. And,
Absolutely.
and we'll see you on the 11th.
Yeah, thank
Looking
you so
forward
much.
to it.
And yes, thank you
hopefully-
also for your sponsorship for food that day. That's going to be really helpful.
Absolutely.
So we really appreciate it.
Happy to help.
Yes.
We just met here in Barry. What, a month or 2 months ago now,
Yeah.
probably, for an amazing home that you have right over here on Keith Avenue. That is the Women's Recovery Home, correct?
Yes, it's a women's recovery home, and that is actually one of our homes that supports mothers with children. So it is a wonderful home. We have 8 beds there, and yeah, so if you need resources, please go to v4.org, vfor.org. Our application is right on the site, and all of our information's there.
Perfect. Thank you both, and I look forward to seeing you on the 11th.
Thank you very much.
Should be a great day.